Some corporate area citizens associations and residents are this evening calling for a temporary halt on the approval of high-rise buildings of over 3 stories in communities with largely single-family dwellings. Now, among other things, they are also raising concerns about what they call the failure of some state agencies to ensure a transparent process for granting permits for certain housing developments. Vashon Brown tells us more.
Meadowbrook, Havendale, Barbican, Eastwood Park Gardens, Constant Spring Gardens, you name it.
Several corporate area residents and citizens associations have come together to voice their concerns. They say they've made numerous submissions to the National Environment and Planning Agency NEPA and the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation KCMC with only very rare acknowledgement and response, and until recently very little action. One of the residents expressing concerns about housing developments in the corporate area is civil society advocate Carol Narcisse.
We accept completely the sense of increasing densities in cities, right? But in most parts of the world, when you increase densities in cities, you do so close to already developed centers, commercial centers, transportation routes, etc. Because the idea is that you want to make it easier for people to go to work, to shop, to do what they have to do without having to get into a car. And so you're reducing traffic.
She says the problem is that the corporate area is getting increased density in existing low-density communities with buildings of 1 to 2 stories in height.
So what we're getting is the density without the conveniences, without the reduction in traffic, without the amenities that are needed to support the increased density. So you're putting increased densities in communities that are already having water problems, right? You're putting increased densities in communities where garbage collection is already a problem.
Another resident, Attorney Kent Gammon, is taking issue with the lack of consultation.
So we want notices. We also want to participate in the decision-making processes that take place when the developments come into our community. We want to be a part of the discussion with the developers so that our privacy rights, our property rights are not infringed.
Earlier this month, Kingston's Mayor Delroy Williams announced that changes will be made to the planning, permission and building approval processes at the KCMC. He said he has written to the Prime Minister and the Ministries of Local Government and Finance requesting an overhaul of the planning department. But as part of the review process, Mr. Gammon wants the Town and Country Planning Provisional Development Order 2017 passed into law.
If those laws had been passed, we wouldn't have had the kind of chaos that we're seeing now. For example, in Paddington Terrace, you wouldn't have more than two floors. You would have the appropriate distances for every floor. You have 5 feet from the boundary. You'd have appropriate green spaces. You'd have appropriate infrastructure would be in place. So those are the things that the Town and Country Provisional Development Order would put in place as law. They couldn't go to 6 and 7 stories like in my case, and others where you have these multi-skyscrapers beside your property.
There are also calls for a temporary halt to certain developments.
We're calling for a moratorium on high-rise developments over 3 stories in existing low-density communities.
The residents also want the KCMC, NEPA and the Natural Resources Conservation Authority to make available for easy online access by citizens up-to-date records of all building applications, including outline planning permissions, permit numbers of pending developments, results of applications, stop orders and inspection reports. Vashon Brown, TVJ News.